Hey guys, it's me, Ellie, aka Looks from the Crypt, and today we're gonna be getting to two movies that I've actually been meaning to review for a hot minute, but never got around to. And they are movies that if you're in the underground horror scene, particularly the underground extreme horror scene, you already know, I'm sure, and love. However, for the rest of everybody here, I want to convince you to watch them. Both these films are from director Guy Fragments, that we definitely know and love here on this channel. The movies we'll be getting into, which is his new release that came out this summer called Sound of Summer, and then Difficulty Breathing, which came out a couple years ago now. And you can get Sound of Summer through Unearthed Films, Diabolic DVD, all those regular sites you can get all that shit from. However, Difficulty Breathing, you have to get directly through him. First off, I just want to flag that this is a spoiler-free video. We will not be getting spoilers at all here today. I feel like both these films are definitely worth supporting, putting your money and your time toward. I really believe in supporting underground small creators, especially ones that are making really cool stuff that is pretty unique and not what anybody else is doing right now. And if getting into these underground films sounds like a good time to you, grab a snack, grab a drink, and keep on watching. And with that being said, we're going to jump into the first film, I guess chronologically first film. They have nothing to do with each other. Difficulty Breathing. This one you can buy from Guy directly himself. It's really great. It is about a woman who is brutally assaulted and outside of her apartment, and then from there she develops agoraphobia. Thinking of arachnophobia, and I was like, wait, I know that's the fucking wrong word. Anyway, she develops agoraphobia, struggling with living and trying to and going outside. She feels very fearful of going outside, as when she goes outside she sees her assaulter and things like that. So that's a really scary place to be in, and I feel the way her trauma and how the way she's dealing with it in a sense of grief is depicted really well here. Something about this movie really pulled me in from the start. So it starts out by saying play loud across your screen with the black and white fuzzies and a really loud noise soundtrack, which accompanies this whole film. There is a lot of actual I'm not saying literal noise, but harsh noise, the genre of music playing throughout, which I think is such a great choice. And it's really overwhelmingly loud when we get those scenes, and I feel it really adds to us being able to understand the state that she's in and what she's feeling in these moments. More or less, Difficulty Breathing is a descent into madness film, and I've watched it twice. The first time I watched it, I was sick with COVID, so it was quite an experience. And then recently I just rewatched it again because I wanted to do this little video on both of them, and I was thoroughly impressed. I feel Guy does a really good job with his limitations, which is budget, of course, and really knows how to make that work to his advantage. And in Difficulty Breathing, we get this really claustrophobic, tense, anxiety-inducing feeling, and it's almost makes you jump at times in terms of the tension that gets built up, and the moments we get with our character. Give props to this movie for actually trying to be scary, if that makes sense. There are scares, there is tension building, there are things that are to be afraid of in this film, and I think that's great. I feel that's something I don't see, this kind of story building and care in the underground as much as I would like to, and to get this from this was really fun and exciting. I felt it was really refreshing, honestly. I also want to say Difficulty Breathing doesn't have any dialogue or anything like that. I think it might, but it's very little, and it doesn't really matter. We kind of more so just watch things play out, which I think was a pretty good choice as well, because I feel reading subtitles in terms of a movie like this that's supposed to be really make you drawn in and be fully immersed in the way it does would kind of take you out of it. So I think that's a really good artistic choice. And Difficulty Breathing is pretty short and sweet, runs at about 40 minutes, does not overstay its welcome by any means, and is a pretty fun watch just to throw on if you don't have the commitment to a full movie in that moment. And with that being said, I give Difficulty Breathing a 4 out of 5. I really like this film, and I'm really excited to see what Guy does next, and maybe really excited for what he did do next, which is Sound of Summer. And Sound of Summer is so unique. I will start by saying that, like, I've not seen like a movie come out like this from the underground in a while, and also it's really ambitious. I'll start out, I'm trying not to give too many details about these films, but so Sound of Summer is definitely like a body horror creature feature. And I'll kind of leave it at that, more or less, which is something that's super ambitious to try to do. And also, like, again, like, not many movies out of the underground are like coming out with these sorts of like really big like stories like that, or like really immersive stories, so to speak. And again, like, I haven't seen anything like this, and I would say he absolutely like nails it for the most part. In Sound of Summer, we follow our main character who works at a coffee shop, and this is where she first encounters like this dude that feels very much like a cryptid called or like urban legend, I guess, called like the Cicada Man. And he is a full grown adult that captures cicadas, which I guess is like an activity like kids do in Japan. And also I would say like the name, like the Sound of Summer, to demonstrate like the overwhelming and like powerful sound of the cicadas that come out during like the hotter months. One day she comes from work and there is a cicada on her door. And then from there, I feel like this is where we begin our descent into madness with our very sweet and likable main character. And she gets woken up in the middle of the night by the sound of the cicadas. And then at this point, I found it difficult to differentiate if this was dream or reality. But then we see the Cicada Man in her apartment, putting cicadas in her apartment. And it's really fucking gross. I never really had like an issue with cicadas, but like, I have to admit, this is pretty icky. And this leads to her, you know, descend into madness from here, where she's just like unbearably like itching and scratching. She has like scratches and like wounds all over herself from itching due to like the feeling of the cicadas, and like she delves into like complete paranoia, and like to this point she's like trying to seek medical attention, but the doctor is very dismissive and just like, whatever, it's fucking cicadas, which like I get, I guess, but also like, look at her. Our medical professional unfortunately fails her, which then ultimately leads us up to like the most like cringe inducing scenes of her trying to find relief. And yeah, dude, like she tries to find relief from like the itching and like the cicadas in like ways that make you want to look away from your screen, kind of go like, holy shit, that's awesome. And honestly, it's pretty difficult to watch and it's really gross. I won't describe what occurs because I just want you to fucking see it, because I was really impressed with this scene and really loved it. And I just want to say, not a whole lot will make me cringe and be like, I don't like that, you know, but this definitely did it for me. And all I will say from here about Sound of Summer is that it begins to delve into us watching our lead spiral into like insanity with like self-mutilation and insane body horror. I'm not going to actually talk about the ending, but I will in a very like vague way, which is just like in terms of like the effects. Like, our climax is the thing, is like, so I did have my issues with this film, which we'll get into, but the climax of this kind of made me just like stop talking and like sit in like awe of what I was viewing, because it's so big, I guess, and also so imaginative, and also just like so ambitious. Like, I feel like our like final sequence, the climax, does so much, and like it's like quite impressive, honestly. And it's one of those things where it kind of made me not care about the issues I have prior, if that makes sense, because of how overwhelmingly like good I thought this portion was. And again, I want you guys to support this and go watch this, so that's kind of where I'll leave it. However, I'll just say this has like a really awesome and unique story. The effects are insane, and the ending is like absolutely like captivating. These are both Descent into Madness movies, I realize now, which is something Guy does really well. It's just like an ending you absolutely cannot look away from you. It's really shocking and leaves you speechless, but like in a way that not like typical extreme horror films where you're like, oh, that's nasty, just like a woman like being like raped, tortured, and mutilated. It's a lot bigger than that, and is actually kind of like nothing like that, but for comparison, it's very different. This is more, both of these are more like traditional like horror films, if that makes sense, and that's I think why I really like them too. And my issues with Sound of Summer, unfortunately, I honestly didn't have very many issues with difficulty breathing, other than I felt that difficulty breathing had some scenes I thought felt a little silly goofy, but it was kind of like, whatever, it's so short. However, with Sound of Summer, I would say my main issues here is like the audio. It goes from really quiet to really loud, but it doesn't feel like it's in like a purposeful way. But that was a little bit bothersome. And then I think this was an artistic choice that was here, but I wasn't a fan of it. Often when we were like outside and also in like the doctor's office, there's like an overwhelming amount of like exposure. It's just way too exposed, very bright, but it didn't really look great in my opinion. It was really serving like a certain quality that you find that I don't really enjoy. Those were really bothersome, but there are things I was able to look past. I guess I do have to say though, if it weren't for those like moments, I think Sound of Summer would have been like my movie of the year is like the problem. So that could have easily gone like a 5 out of 5 for me if it weren't for that, but it is what it is. And I do like to be like honest and transparent here with this, but in terms of like the creativity, story building, and just like the effects and like also like the passion absolutely bleeds through these, so I definitely recommend them. And I'll just say like they're both just like genuinely like unique and disgusting entries to come to like the underground, and like Guy is somebody you definitely want to be like paying attention to. He starts us grounded in reality and totally immerses us into like a new world you couldn't even like imagine, which is something I'm fucking obsessed with. However, I will say my cons with Sound of Summer really fucking bothered me my first watch, but on my second watch, knowing what to expect, it didn't really bother me quite as much. So I don't know, it's kind of neither here nor there, but it was enough for it not to be my movie of the year. You know what I mean? And I am really excited to see what Guy comes out with later and in the future. And this makes me want to trail back into his filmography and check out Rope Maiden, which was a movie I wasn't really that interested in, but now I am after with how impressed I am with these two movies. I feel like it should come to no surprise. I fucking love these movies. I think these are like the most like exciting, refreshing things that have come from like the underground in like a hot minute, especially what we consider like the extreme underground at that. And I really love these movies. I'm really excited to see what like Guy comes out with in the future. And if you checked out these movies, what did you think? I really am curious about what other people thought about these, if they were excited about them as I was, or if I was just some guy who liked these, you know what I mean? Yeah, like I said again, difficulty breathing, and also I guess Rope Maiden you can get through Guy directly. Otherwise you get Sound of Summer through Unearthed Films and all those other people who supply Unearthed Films. I'll have all the info linked down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. This has been me, Ellie, aka Looks from the Crypt, and I am out.